Jivan, Kolya, Vartan, Samvel. These young men from the self-defense detachments fell during those eventful months while this film was being shot. Karabakh, Artsakh, the Shahumian region. A chronicle of events, June to September. The first thing I saw after breaking into the blockaded area were people burying a young man from their village who was killed in one of the artillery bombardments. They are shooting every day. Every day they are killing. We don't live now. We are only half alive. We ask you help. Help us. Children clean the weapons arms of their fathers. The fathers go off to plow, sow, gather the crops, and defend these crops, their houses and this land. This is the 4th year this has been going on already. And the children who have grown up during these years will soon be able to stand alongside their fathers and their elder brothers. These are Armenians after the deportation of Getashen and Martunashen villages of Erkech, Manashid, and Buzluk, pending in alarm. This is Erkech in the middle of July. We have no electricity for 6 months. The mill doesn't work. We have no flour, and we ran out of grain long ago. We give a child 200 grams of bread, but then take it away from him so that we will have something to give him tomorrow. But they said, Defense Minister Pugo said, that there are no children in these villages. What is he talking about? Aren't these children? Passport checks. This means that the Oman and the army enter a village. Look at this child. Yesterday we didn't know where to hide him. We had to hide him in a cowshed. There are troops in Shahumianovsk. They were sent to Todon, and now they are shooting at us from there. We call up from here and say, Commander, we are being attacked. They answer, hold on. We will call Stepanaget. But from there, all they say is, we have no orders to defend you. There were about 500 people, or 700. I don't know exactly how many, but there were a lot. They began to attack these 3 villages, but we defended ourselves, and we didn't let them in. The Azerbaijani Special Militia Detachments, Oman, backed up by troops of the 23rd Division of the Soviet 4th Army, demanded to check passports. In other words, storm the village and deport the inhabitants. Villagers, you have 1 hour. We must check all your passports. Dear inhabitants, headquarters ask that you not resist the soldiers of the Interior Ministry. If there is armed resistance, the troops will undertake drastic measures. I repeat, drastic measures. Drastic measures. We expect you in 1 hour near the loudspeaker. We expect you in 1 hour near the loudspeaker. I won't go away from here. You can bury me here. I have just come from the talks. They said, if we won't hand over our weapons, the troops will enter the village with the special Azerbaijani militia, and they will turn everything upside down. Besides, there were officials from the regional committee of Geramboytsky region. They told us, unambiguously, that there is no room for us here. You must leave, they said. Write a request that you wish to leave of your own free will. 2 days, the village was encircled in an iron ring. When it became clear it was impossible to avoid the storm, the children, women, and old people left the village. Against tanks, armored cars, and helicopters, thousands of members of the Oman and soldiers, there stood only 24 young Fedayeen, men from volunteer corps. The silence of the village was broken first by armored cars. Then came the vehicles, loaded with Oman troops. The Oman soldiers and troops surround the homes where the Fedayeen reside. We are being surrounded by armored cars. They are surrounding us with armored cars. In this desperate situation, we all share the same fate. We had to place a large caliber machine gun in the forest. Air! Air! Fire! Shoot! Come on! Where are you? Shoot! Run! Quickly! One by one. It was a miracle that we managed to break out of this ring of armored cars and tanks, doing nothing with order. Attention! Quiet, boys. We must form an all-around defense. The inhabitants leaving the village were seen off with fire from cannons and large caliber guns. The lorry with refugees was hit by a shell. 8 people were wounded. This elderly man and women were killed. The Oman and the army are entering the village. They are killing people with tanks and helicopters. There was a T-54, number 130. We do not understand what's going on. Is it 1918 all over again? Why should we leave our land and go away? Why should we leave our native Armenian land? I am from the village of Erkech in Shahumyan. When the firing started, I escaped and fled to the village of Verishen. On my way there, birth pangs started. They only just managed to take me by car to the hospital in Shahumyan. Today, giving birth is surrounded by problems. Out of 10 newborn babies, 9 have pathological problems. I am Russian. I took part in the Second World War. What is happening today is worse than fascism. The fascists never did the things the Azerbaijanis are doing. They attack people, the Armenians, and cut them into pieces. Every day we are exhausted from the tension. We live in constant fear. The Oman soldiers will come. The Oman have already destroyed our psyche. We are all mentally ill. We are not going to wait and do nothing like in Sumgait, in Baku, where all the Armenians were slaughtered, and like in Getashen, where all the Armenians were deported. They forced us to sign a document saying we are leaving of our own free will. The colonel got rewards for the battles in Manashid, Erkej, and Buzduk. What did they get these rewards for? For driving Armenians out of their homes. Defense Minister Pugo says that there are only guerrillas in these villages. That's a lie. There were no guerrillas here. We ourselves, women and small children, we are all guerrillas. If the enemy attacks your house, your husband, your father, your brother, won't they defend their mothers, wives, and sisters? They came to rape us. They came to kill us. Early in the morning at 5:30, they came through the forest to carry out these so-called passport checks. There were 17 tanks and many soldiers, and many helicopters and vehicles. See how they forced us out of our homes? Just with what we had on at the moment, we ran away just like that. The next day, we watched from a distance how the soldiers loaded our property onto armored cars and took it all away. I am ashamed for the mothers of these Russians, but this is not their fault. They thought they had sent their sons to defend the Soviet Union, to defend our motherland, and not to force the Armenians out of their homes. This is the same Erkej 1 week later. After entering the village, the Oman burnt the building of the village Soviet, which they said was the headquarters of the Armenian guerrillas. They burnt the houses of the people who they suspected had helped the guerrillas. The Oman write on the gates of the former Armenian houses the names of their new owners. The Oman take up positions all over the village. The Oman barracks. The Oman fly the flag of the winner, and this is the village of Getashen. The victors are the same, the style is the same. This village was taken by storm in May by Soviet paratroopers and artillery, tanks and helicopters. After them, the Oman moved into Getashen. Dozens of peaceful people were killed and are missing. Hundreds ended up in Azerbaijani prisons. And these are the new Azerbaijani owners. This is their opinion of Armenians. They are enemies of the people. Is it possible to get on with them? Absolutely not. The work is in full swing. Everything Armenian is thrown away as rubbish. In the end, the houses of the Armenians suspected of disloyalty are burnt. The telephone system was razed to the ground. New owners are taking over the houses and the land of the people who had the misfortune to find themselves in the way of the Soviet army and the Azerbaijani Oman. Armenian Getashen has been turned into Azerbaijani Chaykent, and that's why no traces of the May tragedy are to remain. After the villages of Erkech, Manashit, and Buzluk, it is Vereshen's turn. This is only the adjustment of fire. No flour for the 4th month. There is always someone who goes without bread. And the bread, we didn't have bread like this even during the Second World War. The war is lasting for a long time. They are firing at us with machine guns and cannons. They destroy everything. There is nothing left. Do you want to leave from here? No, no, never. Where should we go? Where? This is our land. Our graves are here. Our fathers lived here. We were born here. We and our children. Where shall we go? In the middle of August, the village was bombarded not only by cannons, but by tanks, armored cars, and howitzers. They were shelling with anti-aircraft rockets and from so-called crocodile helicopters, well known from Afghanistan. Perestroika is the continuation of the great changes founded by the October. The inhabitants felt the putsch with their own skin. During the night of the 20th of August, more than 100 shells and Alizon rockets were fired at the village. Everybody was the storm. The Azerbaijanis are firing on Vereshen with large caliber guns. There may be many victims, but we cannot find out because of the firing. Can you hear this sound? The army is on the hills above the village. 9 armored cars and transporters. 2 helicopters. And crocodiles. Make sure people stay calm and don't rush about. Make them wait in their cellars. Everything will be all right. We're relying on you. In the morning, the size of the destruction became evident. There is intensive firing by cannons, tanks, and large-caliber guns from the Azerbaijani side. We love our land. I want to die in this land. I'll be here till the end. I won't go anywhere. They are firing day and night. Bullets. Look, daughter, look at the bullets. The old man was sitting in the yard, eating his bread. And that's what he got. A 23mm shell killed a 7-year-old boy. Suddenly, we heard the gunfire. The child fell down, and we saw that his head was blown up. The child didn't even manage to eat a piece of bread. Is it possible? The Soviet soldiers are firing at the Soviet children. Let God save you, Armenian brothers, Russia, Ukraine. The Commission of the General Staff of the Armed Forces of the USSR and the deputies of the Supreme Soviet of Russia arrived to get acquainted with the situation on the spot. They adjusted the fire of the artillery literally to every other 10 meters. The helicopters worked from above. Where were the guns? The guns are behind these mountains, and they were adjusted from these positions. 179-133-887, SV. I've never seen anything like it. This is of the Air Forces. These are stabilizers. It's a shell splinter. They are firing at the peaceful inhabitants the whole day. All the children, even the adults, are stammering. The children are so frightened that they are all suffering from jaundice. The Oman wants to throw us out of our homes. That won't happen. We've lived here, and we shall live here. We shall defend our homes at any price. Finally, isn't there any way out of the situation? Give them the instructions to those, your cobras. Let them come, kill us all at once, and then leave. We have no weapons to stand against them. I don't know if the army has been transformed into a cooperative society of mercenaries. For each flight, they get a definite sum of money. We are all to blame, and me, and you. You, as a people's deputy, that we live in this life, when we have to evacuate our children from our homeland. The commission has been in the village of Erkech, occupied by the Oman. This is an officer of the Soviet Army. He has witnessed the tragedy of the villages Getashen and Martunashen in May. We sent 3 armored cars and an ambulance there. We saw the weapons they used. We saw the destruction in Martunashen. The place was on fire. I myself saw an old man cut into pieces, probably with an axe. They had brought him from Martunashen. Nobody except the Oman could kill like that. They brought a woman with a wounded hand. The Oman had wanted to remove the ring from her finger. I didn't let them, she said. This is an officer of the Soviet Army. He has witnessed the tragedy of the villages Getashen and Martunashen in May. We sent 3 armored cars and an ambulance there. We saw the weapons they used. We saw the destruction in Martunashen. The place was on fire. I myself saw an old man cut into pieces, probably with an axe. They had brought him from Martunashen. Nobody except the Oman could kill like that. They brought a woman with a wounded hand. The Oman wanted to remove the ring from her finger. I didn't let them, she said. So they shot at my hand. I saw tanks, troops surrounding the village. We didn't speak to these soldiers. We just put the women and children into 3 armored cars. We took the wounded woman, a mother of 5 children. We took 5 dead people and 12 wounded. Before canceling the state of emergency, the situation in this region was more or less normal, even better than in other regions of Nagorno-Karabakh. At the moment they canceled the state of emergency, the Oman at once started to carry out deportation under the pretext of checking passports. Within several hours, the events in Buzluk, Manashid, and Erkech started. If we had received an order not to allow the Oman to fire, use force, we could have become a deterrent. Another meeting. This former private speaks about himself. I was serving in Stepanakert, in Upper Troops 18,920. I escaped because the soldiers and the officers used to beat me every day. They beat me because I tried to prevent them from selling an Armenian. During the passport checks, they took an Armenian they wanted out of his house and sold him to the Azerbaijanis. The sums were huge, 50,000 or 100,000 rubles. If the Armenian put up resistance, they dragged him off to the prison in Shusha. I know that they do not come out of this prison alive. Now I support the Armenians. I help the Armenians to fight for their independence. Contra-Admiral Timur Gaidar, a writer and a journalist. The situation from the military point of view is considered to be very difficult. The military situation is very precarious. The heights above the village are occupied by enemy forces. They are able to fire from hidden positions. That's a hard situation. But the people are brave here and ready to struggle for the land of their grandfathers, even under these circumstances. Now, after the wonderful victory of democracy, there are real possibilities and real necessity to stop the bloodshed at once. The Azerbaijanis may not stop, but without the support of our army, as I see the situation, they can hardly do anything. We ask you to contact Moscow and find out why the troops are interfering. Let them contact Yanayov and Yazov. Is this why they carried out the coup, the dirty scum?
Постепенно будет развитие. Вот такая задача на сегодня. Кроме этой задачи, это конференцируемо.
In September, it became clear that it is necessary either to evacuate the inhabitants from the constantly bombarded village or force the Oman from the surrounding heights. It was decided that the Oman position must be attacked. Bombarded village or force the Oman from the surrounding heights. it was decided that the Oman position must be attacked. But life in the beleaguered village was going on as normal. The commander, Samvel, became godfather to his men. By baptizing his men, the commander was saying farewell to his men. That day, there was even a wedding party. The hours before sunrise, the guns are being checked for the last time. The attack begins. This is the Oman camp. The people bombarded Verashen for 2 months from here. They were settled in well. But after August, when the Soviet army stopped supporting the Oman, it became clear that the Azerbaijani guardsmen could not hold their position, which had been presented by them by the paratroopers for more than 2 hours. So we won, didn't we? The joy of the men of the self-defense detachment was limited. In the battle for the strategic position, their commander and godfather Samvel had been killed. This is how the village of Buzluk looked when on the 14th of September it was freed by the self-defense detachments. The defiled cemetery. The broken gravestones. The burned houses. These are the names of the people who intended to become the new owners. This house was built in 1882 by Vartan Hovhannisyan. We can see the familiar hand of the Oman at work in 1991. Before escaping, the new landlords took with them everything they could. What they couldn't take with them, they broke and burnt. The inhabitants of Buzluk returned to their homes. I haven't seen such tragedy. Everything is broken. Everything is destroyed. It took so many years to build my house, my whole life. And now look. Look what they have done. If it were possible to do something for us, to live peacefully in our houses. We don't care that everything is destroyed and plundered. We'll rebuild everything again, if only we can stay in our homeland. In several days, the young men freed Manashit and Erkech. Jivan was killed in the fight for these heights. They have been renamed the Jivan Mountains. If it were not for Jivan with his 2 men, we would never have come out of here alive. I got acquainted with the history of this ancient Christian country, its great and tragic past, the cruel and bloody yesterday, and the unbearably difficult today. Let God make the day of tomorrow bring something more than only hope.